Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. Funny thing about being fast, you end up waiting a lot. First to show up, first in line, then just waiting. Me, I rev up Chumba Casino. With over 200 social casino games, no slow lanes here. Why sit around when you can spin? I'm already racing. Your turn. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
November 24th, 1971. A polite businessman in a suit and tie boards a flight from Portland to Seattle, orders a bourbon and soda. Then he calmly tells the flight attendant he has a bomb. 2 hours later, he's jumping out of the back of a Boeing 727 into a freezing storm with $200,000, never to be seen again. For 53 years, nobody knew who D.B. Cooper really was. Then, in 2024, two siblings stepped forward with a shocking claim about their father. Today, we're trying to solve America's greatest unsolved hijacking. You know how some people have that one coworker who's always polite, pays for coffee, holds open doors, and you think they're basically harmless? Well, on November 24th, 1971, a guy just like that walked onto Northwest Orient Flight 305 in Portland, ordered a bourbon and soda, and proceeded to pull off the only unsolved commercial hijacking in American history. And here's the wild part. In 2024, more than 50 years later, two siblings stepped forward claiming they know exactly who he was, their father. So let's start with what happened that Thanksgiving Eve. It's 1971, and air travel was different. You could walk right onto an airplane without metal detectors. Take your shoes off just because you wanted to, not because some TSA agent demanded it. Flying was still kind of glamorous. Flight attendants were called stewardesses, and apparently, hijacking planes was so common that some crew members thought bomb threats were pranks. Our guy walks onto this Boeing 727 looking like he sells insurance for a living. Mid-40s, business suit, black tie, white shirt, and the kind of unremarkable face that blends into any office building in America. 36 passengers on board, typical short flight from Portland to Seattle. And he sits in the back, orders his drink, pays cash, tips the flight attendant well. Model passenger. Then he hands the flight attendant, Florence Schaffner, a note. She glances at it and thinks, great, another weirdo is hitting on me. Because that happened constantly back then. She starts to put it in her pocket without reading it, and the guy leans over and says very politely, Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb. Now, Florence looks at the note. It says he has a bomb and he's hijacking the plane. She looks at him like, really? You? Because this guy has the energy of someone who apologizes when other people bump into him. But then he opens that briefcase he's carrying, and there are wires, a battery, and what definitely looks like dynamite. Florence sits down next to him. He closes the briefcase and tells her his demands. $200,000 in $20 bills and 4 parachutes. $200,000 in 1971 money, by the way, is about $1.4 million today. The man knew inflation was coming, I guess. So the plane lands in Seattle, and while the FBI is scrambling to get the money together, Cooper is being the most considerate hijacker in history. He lets all the passengers go. He orders dinner for the crew. He examines the money carefully when it arrives, like he's checking for counterfeit bills at a garage sale. Then he looks at the parachutes they brought him and rejects one of them because it has an inoperable reserve chute. So this guy knows parachutes. The FBI gives him what he wants. The passengers are safe, and Cooper tells the crew to fly toward Mexico City. But here's where it gets interesting. He gives very specific instructions. Fly low, keep the speed under 200 knots, lower the landing gear and flaps. He's basically turning this Boeing 727 into the world's slowest, lowest flying getaway car. They take off around 7 p.m., and somewhere over the dense forests of southwestern Washington, Cooper does something that still seems impossible. He lowers the aft stairs of the plane. Boeing 727s had this unique feature where you could actually open the stairs from the back of the plane while it was in flight. Cooper knew this. He puts on one of the parachutes, takes the money bag, walks to the back of the plane, and at 8 p.m., in the middle of a storm with freezing rain, 200-mile-per-hour winds, and zero visibility, wearing a business suit and loafers, he jumps into the night. His last words to the crew were, "Thank you for your cooperation and courtesies." Even while committing a federal crime, this man had better manners than most people at Thanksgiving dinner. The FBI launched their biggest investigation at the time. They called it NORJAC, for Northwest Hijacking, though the media started calling him D.B. Cooper. Funny thing is, he actually told them his name was Dan Cooper. The media got it wrong, and somehow DB stuck. Even his fake name got rebranded. They found 66 fingerprints on the plane, got DNA from his clip-on tie, and had detailed descriptions from the crew. They searched the wilderness where he jumped for months. The area was brutal terrain, dense forest, steep ravines, rivers everywhere. And remember, he jumped during one of the worst storms of the year, wearing office clothes. Most skydiving experts said his survival chances were basically zero. You don't jump out of a plane in a business suit during a storm and live to tell about it. But here's the thing. They never found a body. They never found the parachute. And here's the really weird part. They recorded the serial numbers of all 10,000 $20 bills. And despite those bills circulating for years, almost none ever turned up. The only money ever found was in 1980 when a kid discovered $5,800 in deteriorating bills along the Columbia River. The serial numbers matched, but the condition of the bills suggested that they'd been buried underwater for years. That's it. Out of $200,000, they found less than 3%. Over the decades, the FBI investigated dozens of suspects. There was Richard Floyd McCoy, Jr., who pulled an almost identical hijacking several months later. Former Green Beret experienced paratrooper, similar build and appearance. He died in 1974 during a prison escape shootout, so they couldn't question him properly, but the FBI officially ruled him out. Then there was Robert Rackstraw, another military guy with paratrooper experience and a criminal background. Kenneth Christensen, who actually worked for Northwest Orient and would have known about the 727's aft stairs. Dude looked exactly like the FBI sketch, but he died in 1994 with no conclusive evidence. The case became this weird cultural phenomenon. Cooper became a folk hero because he was polite, didn't hurt anyone, and stuck it to both the airlines and the establishment. There are annual conventions where people dress up like Cooper and share theories. Some people have spent entire adult lives trying to solve this case, and honestly, some of the research is better than what the FBI did back in the 70s. In 2016, after 45 years of investigation, the FBI officially suspended the case. They still maintained that Cooper probably died in the jump, but they said they'd examine any significant new evidence that came forward. Well, guess what showed up in 2024? Richard Floyd McCoy Jr.'s children, Shantae and Rick, decided to go public with something they apparently have known their whole lives. They claim their father was D.B. Cooper, and they say they have proof. We're talking about physical evidence here. They claim to have items their father brought home after the Cooper hijacking. Parachute equipment and money they say came from that flight. They have family stories about where McCoy was and what he was doing November 1971. According to them, the timeline works perfectly for him to have been in Portland for the hijacking. Now remember, McCoy died in 1974, so these kids were young when all of this happened. They've been living with this secret for 50 years, but recent documentaries and renewed interest in the case apparently convinced them it was time to come forward. The FBI has agreed to examine their evidence. No official word yet on whether they buy it, but the fact that they're looking at it seriously is significant. Remember, they'd previously ruled McCoy out as a suspect. If the McCoy children are right, it would solve the greatest unsolved hijacking in American history. It would also mean that Cooper actually survived that impossible jump, lived 3 more years, and died not as a mysterious folk hero, but as a convicted hijacker shot by federal agents during a prison break. The case remains officially open while the FBI examines this new evidence. After 53 years of mystery, we might finally know who D.B. Cooper really was. Though honestly, part of me hopes we never really find out for sure, because some mysteries are more fun unsolved. But if Richard Floyd McCoy Jr. was really D.B. Cooper, then the polite gentleman who thanked the crew for their cooperation before jumping into a storm wasn't the mild-mannered insurance salesman type he appeared to be. He was a highly trained military operative who knew exactly what he was doing when he stepped onto that plane. Either way, Cooper's legacy is secure. He pulled off the only unsolved commercial hijacking in U.S. history, did it without hurting anyone, and created a mystery that has captivated people for more than half a century. Not bad for a guy who started the whole thing by politely asking a flight attendant to read his note. Whether he was Richard Floyd McCoy Jr. or somebody else entirely, D.B. Cooper remains the most successful, unsuccessful criminal in American history. And honestly, in a world where most criminals are either incompetent or awful, there's something almost refreshing about a polite hijacker who said please and thank you while committing federal crimes.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
When we started writing our thoughts down on paper, it opened up endless possibilities. Ideas could grow beyond the borders of the mind, and it changed the world. Somewhere along the way, we lost touch with paper, distracted by devices made for every purpose except for thinking and focus. On edge, waiting for the next notification. But what if new technology didn't pull us away from paper, but brought us closer to it? Listen. That's not paper. It's the sound of the new Remarkable Paper Pro, rewriting the future. A paper tablet with a true color ink display, gentle reading light, and unheard of tactility. With digital features for taking notes, thinking, and organizing, without any distractions. Paper is about to change the world again. Get your paper tablet at remarkable.com today.